What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back once again for week 10 of season 3 of the GTA. And today we've got a bunch of crazy different matches. We've got some close ones, some really interesting ones, and some pretty straightforward ones. So this first match we're going to talk about is the match between the NPCs and Felidae. And today we've got a guest coach. You know him as Justifried 18. And others might know him as the coach of the Zubatman, but either way, it's the same person, Mr. David Helton.
What's up?
So, anyways, basically we're just going to do what we normally do. We'll go through each match and just let it play. We'll talk about it, and we'll just say, things that we thought were cool, things that we think should have been done differently, and of course this is all our opinion, and we don't entirely know what the purpose for everything that people put into their matches this week was. So there's that as well. But we hope that everybody gets something out of this. So, like I said, without further ado, David, would you take away on the first match between Felidae and NPCs?
Sure. Um, just quick glance looking at Zytral's team. I believe it's he Felidae or is he the NPCs?
Zytral is the NPCs.
NPCs. There is a glaring fire weakness there. You have neutral damage on 2 Pokemon and super effective damage on 4. So, just right off the bat, you got to check your team and make sure that you're not weak to a certain type like that. It'll kill you, and especially when the opponent is bringing Mega Houndoom.
Yeah.
Looking at the other side, you've got a pretty well balanced team. Um, you've got kind of a fighting problem, but prepping for this team, I mean, Lucario could have posed an issue, but the way it worked, it didn't. But yeah, balance your teams. That's one thing that I really have to say is a big deal. If you've got a glaring weakness, try and patch it with a different Pokemon. Make sure that you've got an answer. But anyway, right off the bat, we've got another Magic Bounce issue. Stealth Rocks being bounced right back. And then right away you lose your Mega Lucario on a switch in like that. It's tough. You lost your biggest threat. I really don't know. Probably should have gone straight into your Gardevoir there, or maybe Florges, depending on how you're running Gardevoir. If it's not specially defensive, Florges probably would have done even better. So anyway, there's just a lot of tough stuff going on there. The Starmie matchup with Fortress. Obviously, there's a big issue with Fortress's special defense, and I'm not sure why we stuck with Ice Beam there instead of maybe a Scald or.
I think he was fearing the shift re-switch in and was wanting to play safe, I guess.
Yeah, that would make
Since
sense.
he had
I mean,
recovery.
the truth is, with Recover, it didn't make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah, no one shot there, but you got good damage there on the Shiftry, and then Houndoom will take care of the rest. Florges still poses somewhat of a threat, but it's entirely walled by Aegislash. So at this point, you just don't have the firepower to deal with what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we'll get a nasty plot into Houndoom that's just going to sweep out, but there's just no answer anymore. This one was not, I'm trying to be brutally honest here, or trying not to be too brutal, but I'm trying to be honest here. This one was kind of decided at the beginning just based off of what was brought by each player.
Yeah, I agree with that. A couple things that it kind of touches on, like the fact that you're saying team building was a key factor here. I would add to that like a part of team building is knowing what your opponent has done, and both teams may very well have watched their opponent's previous matches, or this is why we encourage people to watch this video. But more, like if they, I'm not saying you have to by any means, but it's really helpful to watch the matches that go on each week to learn about the other opponents, as well as maybe learn a thing or two that you might be able to do with your team. So I think it was just extremely obvious what the Feladay did this week. It worked really well, and he deserves the credit for it. But it's something that he's tried before, and I feel like Zytrel should probably know that. And I guess the thing I would say most specifically would be the Espeon, because he almost always brings that choice. May not be specs all the time, but choice trick with Magic Bounce to take care of the hazards. So it just seems like every week this season we've had this consistent issue of not knowing what Magic Bounce does, and we've said it pretty much every week. So not to be mean or anything, but Magic Bounce does the same thing, and when we tell what it does, it's just we don't want to have to see that be the demise of people each week. And then like I said, trick on the Espeon has happened a lot this season. So knowing that, you probably shouldn't have started with Shift Read, or you could have switched into your Lucaria there, expecting that and having a free switch in, being able to do something about the Espeon from the start, because then it would be locked into trick and would have to switch out. One thing I will notice is, I don't know if it was just a bulky Shiftry, but I feel like it should have been, unless the Starmie wasn't a super strong special attacker like the way it was built. I was thinking that the Shiftry must have been Assault Vest, because it lived that hit and was able to take out Starmie, which I thought was actually really good if that's what it was. But
Yeah, I was thinking Vest too.
yeah, I was honestly surprised, because Shiftry's not bulky or anything. So I thought
One
that was
more
pretty
thing.
cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to add. At the beginning, you notice that, we get the trick there, and we get to see what's on Fortress. Fortress was holding a Focus Sash. That is entirely unnecessary. Fortress has Sturdy, which means that he can't be one-shotted anyway. So,
Which is like a focus sash for an ability, basically.
exactly. So giving him a Focus Sash, unless you're running the what's the one that protects him from powders?
I think it's Overcoat.
Overcoat ability on him for a powder move. There's just no reason to Focus Sash him.
Which might be what he did, because he knew that Spore Smurgle, maybe he thought about that being a thing. I don't know. Maybe not.
Only thing is, Smeargle hasn't run Spore yet.
Yeah,
much to
that
my
would be
chagrin,
one of those things, going back to knowing your opponent.
Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of really fun, different, cool ways to run Fortress. He doesn't. I mean, a slow Volt Switch can be a really cool way to run Fortress, because it gets you basically a free move where Fortress eats that move. And if you run that in conjunction with a red card, a lot of times you can disrupt your opponent's momentum and get your switch in that you want. So just a thought.
That's cool. I've never thought about that before. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
red card Fortress is really cool if you just want to get your momentum going, or if you just want to get Stealth Rock out there. If you just want him to rock and then be kind of done, Custap Berry Explosion is a great way to run him.
Love that.
Because at that point, you're getting a free, you get free damage, because you're supposed to go first with the priority, and you just blow up. And so you've got rocks, you've got damage, and you're just trading, which is a pretty decent trade. So the one thing I will say that a lot of people try with Fortress that I'm not a big fan of is they try to spin and set up. You can't have both, because you're going to lose your spinner while you're trying to set up spikes or Stealth Rock or whatever. So
it's too passive of a set to have both.
Yeah, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too there. So I feel like you've got Custap Berry Explosion, Red Card Volt Switch. I've seen a lot of, I mean, Red Card Gyro Ball. There are a lot of cool ways to run him. Um, so even as an attacker, since he's got sturdy, if you feel like you've got a team that you can hit pretty hard and get rocks out, you can go with a Custap Berry and then just get a knockoff, get an item out there, get a toxic off something. So you can. There are a lot of good ways to run Fortress. He's going to always be a sacrificial lead pretty much, but there's still fun ways to run him, still good ways to gain momentum while running him. And right now, he's being set up on.
Yeah, I agree. So really, I think what he's trying to say is that like there are better ways to run him, but I honestly think the biggest thing is to think about what your opponent has and bring accordingly. Like I think Tyranitar would have been a pretty good choice here because I doubt Houndoom had the Will-O-Wisp, and that could have done some damage to his team. Tyranitar's a really strong mon. Like you can even run it in a Dragon Dance set, even though that's not common. But like it could have done so much to this team that Feladay brought. So, bringing what you've brought every week ends up doing things like this, where like they know what you're gonna bring, and if you don't change it, then they're gonna be best prepared for you. I will say that the nasty plot, or not nasty, I don't know if it was nasty plot or if it was tail glow,
Tail Glow. It was Tail
but
Glow.
that and then passing it to Houndoom was really cool. But I would also say with the Aegislash, I've said before, I don't really think Toxic is the best thing to run on an Aegislash. I just think that it's kind of a waste when it's a sweeper. Like you should probably run Toxic on something like Espeon or some other tank or maybe Smeargle. It just doesn't really fit with his role. And I'm not saying you can't run it, and I'm not saying it hasn't worked in the past, but generally I think it's better spent being used as an offensive threat. Um,
Well, I think they're
and
running him as a defensive wall.
yeah, which is kind of challenging because I don't know if he knows this and maybe other people don't, so sorry if I'm spoiling this for him, but statuses can go through um, King's Shield. It's not like Protect where it protects from everything. It only protects from offensive attacks. So you can get hazards up still. You can still
But you
put
can get
like a
hazards up
willow.
on Protect.
Yeah, but you can also put like a Thunder Wave or a Will-O-Wisp on him, or put him to sleep all while he's trying to protect. And
Right.
that's like I don't think the Aegislash is necessarily to be primarily used as an like especially like this season we allowed Ubers and it was at a huge cost. And almost all, if not I think all of the Ubers that were made legal were offered like that. They were all sweepers. They're hardcore sweepers. And
Yep.
they can be run different ways, and that's fine because the draft format and you want to run what people won't expect. But like you shouldn't run a sweeper as a defensive Pokemon,
Over and over and over
especially
again.
over and over, but probably at all in my opinion. And so, like I think that Gyro Ball is okay if it's a faster team, but like it's not a faster team. So things like Iron Head, Shadow Claw,
Yep.
Shadow Sneak, Swords Dance, and King's Shield, those types of moves, and
Hmm.
Sacred Sword, those things
I
hit
was about to
so
say
hard, and
Sacred
you can
Sword.
play so many crazy mind games with Aegislash. I just think that it could be so much better without things like Toxic and trying to Toxic stall with a
Well,
flawed Protect.
and the horrible but awesome thing about Aegislash and the reason he ended up in the Ubers is after one Swords Dance with Sacred Sword and Shadow Claw or Shadow Sneak, depending on what you want there. You have neutral coverage on everything,
Hmm.
right? You've got Fighting and Ghost neutral coverage on everything, and you've got a Swords Dance Aegislash with a pretty high attack power, um, and he sweeps just constantly. And I mean that's why he went Ubers. It's really hard to find an answer for him. So yeah, I mean you're taking an Ubers Pokemon and you're running him in a way that He probably doesn't compete in like even OU or UU. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, so I guess that's all we really have to say about this. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next match, which was between the Alakazams and the Kentucky Krookodiles. Now, we've seen the Alakazams more and more each week exploiting the power of Mega Salamence even more so, and it's been getting scary. So I, as the coach of the Krookodiles, was starting to get a bit scared that I had to face him late in the game. And I was trying to think of my most of my team preparation was fixated around trying to find ways to take out Mega Salamence, and that was it, pretty much. And I knew that Lantern was probably coming, so I was like, okay, well, I have to be aware of that. And I think I predicted the rest of his team to come, but I was, again, really just super concerned about the Salamence, and I was like, I know I have Weavile, but I have to get him in on a safe switch because Ice Shard does like 60% with Life Orb, but it does not have a chance of knocking out. I'd have to get Rocks up and have a lucky shot, but even then, still wouldn't have a chance of being able to take it out that way. So I had to like be really particular about this match. And unfortunately, as you'll see, there's a lot of hacks in this match on both sides. But
did Bronzong have Levitate?
yes.
Then that was a great answer for Mega Salamence. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, and
Between the aerial aid.
I didn't have to use it, but I did. Now, I did go for some obvious plays in the beginning because I wanted to figure out what kind of predictions he was going to try and make. And he definitely played Lantern really well. But like I knew that even though like Sableye went down, which was my first answer to Salamence with the Will-O-Wisp, and just the fact that like he's such a physical wall, that I had other answers, and I didn't have to reveal it, but I did bring Custap Explosion Bronzong with Endure, and I knew since Mega Salamence didn't have any priority, something was going to go down or take a lot of damage doing doing that. So the first couple like turns, I'm gonna pause it right here. Actually, I'm gonna just like point out that like yeah, the first couple turns I played really obvious because I really wasn't sure if he was gonna like, I wanted to see if he was Volt Absorb, and unfortunately I had Choice Scarf on my Zapdos to outspeed the Mega Salamence at max speed and stuff like that because I knew that Zapdos was my ultimate answer to his entire team. Except for maybe Mamoswine, but still. I was like, okay, well, I have to, like, switch into Sableye here and be careful, because I knew that Sableye would live and I'd get that recover off, but he freezes me. And I'm like, well, that's just great. So I was like, well, I have to stay in and just risk him, thawing out, and I let him go down here to the Togetic, and I was like, well, that sucks, but I knew I had
Can
some
I say
answers.
one thing?
Go ahead.
Right here. This would have been a great time. When you get a freeze hacks like this and you've got Mega Sableye there, this is a great time if you're going to risk it to set up Salamence. I mean, I realize that you've got Weavile still on the field and Talonflame, and so you're probably going to have to switch out, but you're going to get a couple kills in there.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least free damage on somebody. So, I mean, you don't even have to Dragon Dance if you don't want to. You can go straight into return. But you're going to hit something really hard, or at least make you lose the Sableye. And with a Dragon Dance, you're threatening a whole lot more than that. So,
absolutely.
It was a great time for that, and you'll see the second time he freezes would have been a great time for that as well.
Oh gosh, that was awful. I couldn't believe that I got frozen twice in 2 games. I was like, this sucks. I was like, he's gonna go into Salamence. Oh, okay, good. He didn't. I was actually honestly, the reason I stayed in with Sableye was because I was hoping he didn't know that Scald thawed Pokemon out, because I don't think many people knew that. So I risked him staying in and trying to go for some other neutral damage, and he didn't. Which was a good move on his part, whether he knew that or not. And so I started to see that like I was at a huge disadvantage. Sylveon was also frozen. I'm like, this sucks. I tried to switch out to eat the Ice Beam because I knew that was coming, but I also like was hoping to thaw out. And that was risky. But I knew that like between the Custap explosion and the Ice Shard and the Brave Bird, like that I would be able to take this thing out, and I'd still have Zapdos to take on the rest of his team. So I felt comfortable playing that risk, even though it was pretty scary for me. And I thought like, oh man, if I don't thaw out this turn, I lose. Is what I was thinking. But as I watched it after, that's what I was like realizing is, okay, well I did bring all these things because Mega Salamence is that scary. So, you know, after the Salamence went down, he had some good plays, but at the same time, once that Lantern also went down, I kind of was cleaning up with just because Weavile and Talonflame are able to like just in combination do so much work, and then Zapdos was able to pick up all the kills instead. So, David,
Yeah,
do
you
you
got
have
a lot
anything
of
to add?
there's a lot of scary stuff going on there with Weavile and Talonflame. He set up spikes. I think with the team you brought, he probably should have gone with Stealth Rock.
Yeah,
And
I
by probably,
agree.
yeah, he should have gone with Stealth Rock. Um, as far as I know, unless Zapdos is backing Defog, I don't think you had any removal.
Nope, he was static this week, so you can't run Defog on a static Zapdos.
Yep, and so that was that was a lot of free damage there. The other thing is it worked this week, but you've only got a 10% chance to freeze on Ice Beam. I think you normally want to go with Scald there. You get
A burn would have been so much worse. I agree.
yeah, yeah, and you get stab on that. It's a big difference. So Togetic ran really well. Also, I will say that he was
Yeah.
just against 5 Pokemon. So that's really not fair on his part. But um, but yeah, I think that the one other play that he made that was probably a little bit not really thinking through all the way was he attempted to paralyze at the end of the game. He attempted to paralyze your Bronzong. And the one thing that I want to point out to people is paralyzing a Pokemon with Gyro Ball can be the worst thing you can do at times because you drop its speed by half
A
and
quarter
you make
actually.
and you make Gyro Ball way more powerful.
Yep.
So you got to be careful paralyzing a Pokemon with Gyro Ball.
Also, he did admit in the chat, you may have not seen it, but he said he was asking about Hidden Power because I had it on my Zapdos, and he was asking about the fact that I use it because he's noticed that it's done like work in the past on my Zapdos, and so I told him about it. But like, this is just another one of those things that like, if you guys have questions, I would, me and other people would love to like answer them. But at the same time, you can find that stuff on the internet at YouTube from other, from popular other popular YouTubers, and just there's like also stuff on the website to like help with that. And so I would just encourage you guys to like make sure that you take advantage of those things so you don't have to find out during the match. Because knowing abilities like Magic Bounce and knowing things like how Hidden Power works, because that's such a crucial thing when you have Pokemon who have huge weaknesses that like you normally wouldn't have to worry about, like facing Zapdos. Zapdos having Hidden Power Ice can totally change the game when fighting stuff like Mega Salamence. So.
Yep. The one thing I will say, obviously he asked, so he wasn't sure how it worked. But he did bring Hidden Power on his Mamoswine.
Yeah.
Which it's a special attack. So Hidden Power works really well with a special attacker. It's only got 60 base power, so you really want something that you're either bringing it for something that's got a glaring weakness, or you're bringing it on something that hits hard already in special. So bringing a Hidden Power on a Mamoswine, which is an attacker, not a special attacker, he's not going to do hardly any damage because you're using special attack on an attacker.
Right. Yeah, I would not use Hidden Power on Mamoswine anymore. But that's just me. So, I guess we'll go ahead and go on to the next match unless you have anything else to add.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll let you start talking about this one. This is the match between the Wiltshire Wobbuffets and the Minnesota Mucks.
All right, looking at it right away, he's got a really interesting start. So you've got Borosidon versus this Mega Absol, and Secret Sword would have one-shotted there. I am 100% on that. But I guess he was figuring there was going to be a switch into Gudra. Um, activating Justified um, on him is not really a big deal because he's a special attacker. So I kind of understand it, but at the same time, you're not doing much damage.
I would have ran play rough with the amount of threats he could have hit with that.
Exactly. Including that one.
Mm-hmm.
So the switch into Gudra, Gudra just does a lot of work this match. I will say this. I don't know how my Lotic is being run there, but he's not as bulky as I've seen my Lotic be in the past. So I don't know if it's just he's trying to run a competitive set or if he's trying to run it as a special attacker or what. But my Lotic makes for a great special ball. Especially with Marvel Scale.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you've got a ton of momentum going early here. Fatal goes down to 3 Pokemon. You get Mega Charizard comes in and finally takes care of Gudra, but you get the Gooey. And this is where things kind of fall apart. Your Dragon Tail on Garchomp misses. You get Ice Beam. Really, you're at the point now where...
Actually, can I add something real quick? Sorry.
Sure, absolutely.
So, before even the Dragon Tail missed, he went for that Dragon Claw and it landed on the Milotic. If he had just gone for another Dragon Claw, which I'm almost certain he would have outsped the Milotic, he would have taken care of it. And then he would have had a chance of taking out... Because I know he either didn't bring it or he didn't run it. He didn't bring it or he didn't use it. But I calced it in between a Psychic from Slowking, and I'm pretty sure Slowking would have lived a hit because it was a defensive set, I'm like really sure, and a Sucker Punch from Mega Absol, in addition to like the damage you would have taken from Rocky Helmet and Rough Skin from the Garchomp. Even if Garchomp didn't get off a hit, that would have taken care of it, and he would have won the match. But like choosing Dragon Claw or Dragon Tail and missing instead of just going for that Dragon Claw and taking it out, I think changed the game.
Yeah, you're probably absolutely right there. So anyway, really what you get to is, first of all, Conch Elder just hits so hard, which is awesome. That knockoff doing that much damage is a huge play because it allows for the Dragon Dance there. Now, the slack off there, I know that you're thinking you're going to try and wall this Mega Charizard X, but when you allow him to Dragon Dance like that for free, you're in some trouble, honestly. Mm-hmm. And Mega Charizard proves why. After that one Dragon Dance, it just takes care of everything.
Yep.
I will say this. When you're fighting a Charizard or Mega Charizard, the thing that you really want to make sure you get on the field is Stealth Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get Stealth Rocks out there, Charizard takes 50% damage from Stealth Rocks.
And 25 on the Mega Charizard X is still formidable, and it would have made the difference as well.
Exactly. So you really, it's the reason that Charizard hasn't bumped into the Ubers tier. It's because everybody runs Stealth Rocks for the most part, and Charizard coming in on Stealth Rocks like that is really brutal on him. Mm-hmm. So, not trying to pick anybody's team apart here. Charizard's a great Pokemon, but all Pokemon have weaknesses, and you got to kind of be able to pick them out. That's all I got.
I agree. One thing I did want to point out is, like you said, Gudra did really good, but I also thought Slowking did work, and he could have done a lot more. But yeah, Slowking was really good. It actually ended up being more of a threat than I expected it would have been. But in addition to that, like I know Gooey ended up working out, but I think Sap Sipper might have been a better thing, kind of like last week against you, David. I think he should have run Sap Sipper because that would have been a lot worse for your Venusaur. But I'm not sure if
Yep,
he
or
knew
his
how
or
Sap
guys.
Sipper worked or what, but um, it ended up working out that he had Gooey anyways. It forced the switch out, but yeah, I don't know. I think, like
Yeah,
I said, it changed at that point with Garchomp.
mm-hmm. It's Garchomp missing the dragon tail, which again was probably a misplay. But I will say this: sometimes when we talk about like decisions, a lot of the decisions we talk about are um, fairly wide. Like it's common, kind of common play. Um, but the Sap Sipper versus the Gooey, I will say it's very situational.
Yes,
There's
yes.
definitely a time and a place for Gooey. There's definitely a time and a place for Sap Sipper. Both are really good abilities that definitely have um, their merits. So,
Yeah, you're totally right. I guess the last thing I would say is I don't know if this was part of it, but um, moves like Dragon Tail, Whirlwind, Roar, they all have negative priority, which means they even if you're faster, you're still going to go last. And I don't know if he knew that, but that's why it moved last in case he didn't know. But if he did, then that was just still, I guess, a bad play. But if he didn't know, then now he knows that that's why he moved last. And so missing and not knowing that in combination costed him the match. But I think it was a really good match. The Monks really had control up until the end, and I thought it was a really good, uh, comeback. And just seeing him grow the way he has over the season has been really cool. So.
mhm. One thing that I would like to see him try eventually is either Choice Band or Choice Scarf Garchomp with Outrage,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that thing hits like a truck,
It does.
and it's a big threat to sweep, honestly. And the cool thing is, with Garchomp also being physically bulky, you can't play it like a sweeper at all times, and so that can definitely change a match and get you 3 or 4 kills. Honestly, I ran Garchomp last season, and it was beautiful. So that's all I have.
Yeah, Garchomp is scary. He's really scary. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next match, which is between Fakemon and Black Ice. So I'll go ahead and say that Fakemon really kind of dominated the match for the most part. But as you'll see in turn one,
Oh, not so fast, buddy,
hold
because
on.
Kangaskhan almost.
Let me
Okay, I'm sorry.
explain. Let me explain. So turn one was, I think, an oopsie, and I think he didn't know that entrainment didn't work on ghosts. He had the perfect chance to set up because he did use entrainment, and so it was like not knowing on both sides was a real big problem for Fangmon because they had the chance to at least get a calm mind off and then throw something at either the Durant or something else to switch in, and that would have been huge. That would have been a really good thing to like have. And if he didn't want to like lose it to a Doug trio like later, like after taking out the Duran or something, then he shouldn't have started with it. But that was just something I saw. I was like, oh, that would have been a good chance to at least get a kill there, not have to do all the switchy shenanigans like he did for the first half of the match. Um, yeah, Mega
Shenanigans is a
Kangaskhan
good
did
way to
super
describe
well,
that.
so you can take that point if you want.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to like steal your thunder there. I'm just saying it came very close to sweeping here. Also, fantastic play by Isaac um, on the clear smog.
Yes,
Just gotta say
yes,
that was awesome.
that was awesome.
Go for it, but I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
Oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say, yeah, the clear smog thing was awesome. I wouldn't have expected that, and that really just dismantled the Sigilif completely. Even though it wouldn't have had a lot to do against it anyways, um, because of the calm mind and everything, being able to keep up in its pace. So that was, I thought there was a little too much like switching going on in the beginning, but that's just my, opinion. It really isn't like it was a bad thing because he was trying to be really careful not to fall into that stupid entrainment arena trap thing and, get stuck and have setup and all that stuff. So I can understand that.
Just a thought though. Um, that entrainment stuff and all that. Um, you've got levitate is the perfect, and you've got it there on your Latias. It's the perfect way to get out of that because your
Yep.
arena trap does not work on levitate or flying Pokemon. So you could have gone ahead with Latias, and I'm not sure if he did that and then didn't want to go for the kill. I don't know why there, but you had the perfect ability to switch out and get whatever you wanted in there on the Doug trio after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think what was really interesting was seeing like how he like tried like Isaac really early tried to set up a shell smash, but then like knew that entrainment was coming and still to switch out. Like there were just a lot of turns early that seemed kind of unnecessary. But that aside, the Cloyster was able to take care of the Kangaskhan, which did rip through two of his Pokemon pretty quickly. Um,
Kangaskhan was also a sucker punch away from taking care of Cloyster.
that's true. That's true. It was mind games is what came down to it. Like is he gonna
Yep.
Ice Shard? Is he gonna
Ice
Icicle
Shard or
Spear?
Icicle Spear. Yep.
So yeah, it was just an unfortunate like decision because that's just one of the like, do I pick this one or that one? You don't really know until after it happens.
50-50 play. You're
Yep.
trying to play the other guy. But
Exactly.
I will say this: if he picks that, um, I I don't know, but that he sweeps the rest of the team. I think he might just take care of it.
I don't think Mega Aggron would have been taken out by a one drain punch though, because of filter. And I think Heavy Slam or
No,
something would have taken care of it.
would he? I don't. That's my question. I know it wouldn't have been one, but I think two turns would have done it. And with the damage he recovered, I don't know if it would have been enough or not because I know he'd outspeed.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the match would have been a lot different if Kangaskhan did get the read there.
I'm just so excited that Kangaskhan, because Mega Kangaskhan is one of the scariest Pokemon to ever exist.
It's
That
literally the
parental
one
bond thing.
Pokemon that's. I'm gonna say this and then don't think that it's like means I don't like it or anything, but it's literally the first Pokemon that broke the game in the current meta. It's
Yep.
broken VGC, which is the official Pokemon like meta. It's doubles and all that, and Mega Kangaskhan is a staple there, and it's just ridiculous. And there's a reason that it's like so strong, and it's cool to like see it used, you know, to its strengths and stuff. So props to Black Eyes for doing that. What was I think the only other thing I would say is like try changing around your strategies, Black Eyes, because like you've got some good stuff and you've got other Pokemon that you've not used at all, like at least a couple. And it would be cool to see like what other stuff you can use because at this point, like I've said, a couple times before, that like if you bring the same thing each week, people are gonna know how to. At least they're gonna know what you're gonna bring, even if they can't handle it. But for the most part, like bringing the same thing each week is really dangerous because it's not always gonna work. So
Right, and the guy's a good strategist. I mean, I don't know him from Adam, but just watching the matches, um, like the strategies that are employed there are really cool. So I would say like branch out a little bit.
yeah,
You know,
I
find the
agree.
next great strategy. Because week one he took everybody off guard with that truant entrainment arena trap. That was really really cool. Um, so like I said, just get creative. Find the next cool thing that you're going to do. One cool thing that I think this is the first time we've seen it was flame charge on Volcanion.
Yes, I've been talking about that forever, and I'm so glad someone finally used it.
That thing will sweep in a heartbeat if you let it after one flame charge.
Yep, because it outspeeds so much of the meta after one flame charge if it's Jolly Nature. You don't even have to run Jolly Nature. You can run Modest and still outspeed most things. Run a Life Orb or Assault Vest on it. Ugh, it's awful.
Yeah, yeah. Especially vested, it goes nuts
Excuse me.
because at that point you're fast, you're really bulky. It's a really scary Pokemon.
Yes. And it was cool to see that it was used that way this week because even though because of the entrainment stuff, like it didn't work out, like it was still potentially going to be a huge threat. So it was cool to see that happen this week.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so we'll go ahead and go on to the next match, and that's the match between the Charmillionaires and the Gengars. And David, I'll let you take it away.
All right. The first play here just screams switch to me. You've got to know he's packed Ice Beam all the time, and it's 4 times super effective, and you're going down in one shot.
Yep.
Then you get a couple of switches, and you end up with this Quagsire matchup. You got to know unaware means that it does not matter how high you raise your attack. Quagsire doesn't care. You could go to 4 times, and you're going to do the same amount as you did the first turn. A switch there would have been your best play because that thing is a huge physical wall. Then you get the switch that you needed to get that Giga Drain in there. But Mew is being run as a special wall here, obviously. With the Citrus Berry, he recovers a ton, and he's got Soft Boiled packed on it. I mean, it's an exercise in futility at that point. So then you get the Golurk switch, and Big Dan goes straight back into Quagsire. But you got the Dynamic Punch with the No Guard, which is really cool. Kind of a lucky play there where he gets the recover off. I don't know why you go for Ice Punch there. That really...
Yeah. Earthquake did so much more damage. Even Dynamic Punch.
Yeah, Earthquake, I would have probably stuck to Dynamic Punch just to keep that thing confused. But, yeah. So, we end up with the switch. Dan sacrifices Mew for rocks. And then now you've got the problem where Ice is going to hit a big chunk of his team. I got to go back to team building. I hate doing it over and over and over again. Well, first, I got to say the U-turn and the mixed attacking Greninja has worked out really well for Dan.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm going to beat a dead horse real quick with team building. You've got 3 Pokemon there that are kind of crushed by ice, in Gliscor, Golurk, and Torterra. 2 of those Pokemon are 4 times super effective to ice. So that really, again, this match was going to be really hard to win from the beginning, just because at some point in the match, unless you had Electros on the field still, you were going to end up with Greninja coming in and just ice beaming his way through the match. And that's what happened at the end. Because as soon as Electros leaves the field, I think he had it bested. So it still would have been an answer to Greninja. But as soon as that leaves the field, there is no answer. And Drapion might have been able to do enough damage to make sure it didn't sweep if he didn't switch it in. But with the switch in, you've got Drapion has good defensive stats, but not great special defensive stats. And so with the switch in, you get 2-shotted, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I again go back to team building. Have the general rule that I always go with is make sure that you have a special and a physical wall. I mean, there are some bulky teams that don't require that, but a lot of the teams that we're looking at have something that's going to wall. And look at who your opponent is and make sure that your walls are something that can't be broken really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Make it hard for your opponent too, because while they're trying to think about how to break your wall, you're trying to think about how to beat them. So it's a big difference. And Mew and Quagsire, if you don't believe me, just when you're watching that match, look at what Mew and Quagsire do to the other team. It's just a total momentum stop. They come in, and then the opponent has to switch out because there is no answer there. And so they were great as far as being a physical and a special wall there.
Yeah. And another thing in addition to that is learning, like, even if you didn't prepare, knowing what you have to preserve, which what I call normally win conditions. You have to preserve those above everything else if you want to have a chance of winning at certain points in the game. So, if you wanted to break their walls, you should have, maybe preserved, like he said, Drapion to do enough damage to... Because it was only one more hit away at the end from taking out Greninja, and it would have at least been a closer game. And I think that Torterra had a good chance of breaking both of his wall cores the way he was running it, which was, I thought, would have been pretty cool to take out Quagsire and Mew. But we didn't get to see that because of the issues with team building. So this is something that, like, we've seen before with some other teams and with the Gengars as well, is team building, team building, team building. But the Gengars have not changed their strategy at all this season. I don't even know if they've changed their move sets or items, and it hasn't seemed, and I could be wrong, but to me, if I can't tell that, then that means it's either not changed enough, or I'm right and it hasn't changed at all. And I know the Gengars have a really strong team between these six, but there are some huge weaknesses that they share between, like Earthquake and Ice Beam and even a Grass Attack. That does so much damage to his team. Now, he has Dragonite. Where's Dragonite been this whole season? Dragonite is scary strong. You throw a Choice Band on that. You make it a Dragon Dance set of any sort, Assault Vest, Weakness Policy, Lumberry. It's so good, and that's just an example of the stuff that they drafted that was good, that has not been brought at all. And I don't even think he's brought his Mega once this season, which is Mega Heracross, and that thing is really really strong too. So I would just, I really think that in combination with the fact that the Charmeleonaires love putting pressure on the opponent, and if there's no way to stop it, then they sweep, and sweep pretty quickly. But I think if the Gengars had prepared and changed up what they had, I think they could have had a good chance of at least contesting this victory, if not winning. So.
Yep, you know how Dan is going to play. And you know that he's going to come ultra aggressive. And the truth, the thing is, if you don't prepare, he's going to beat you, and he's going to beat you bad. It's always scary to play him because he puts constant pressure on, and you've always got a chance to get swept. But, you got to prepare. Preparation and team building. I hate to say it, but a lot of our guys are going into matches where it's really hard to, you're going to have to pull something special in order to win, because it's like going into a game of chess, but bringing all bishops,
Yeah.
You're leaving some glaring weaknesses there. So, just you gotta be able to diversify, and you gotta be able to look at your Pokemon and say, what job are they going to do for me this week? So.
And one of the things that you guys should check out too is the viability videos I've been making. I'm only making a couple a week, but they're not by any means the say-all end-all for that particular Pokemon I discuss in the video, but it sheds some light on how Pokemon can be used, but also their viability. And so I will cover some Pokemon that have been drafted often, that aren't necessarily the best, but aren't really the worst. And they're also I'm gonna shed some light on Pokemon that I think or at least those types of Pokemon are really good to run. For example, I think that having two things are key in the draft format, aside from the other staples, is I think a semi-fast to fast electric type is key. I also think that a bulky water type of any sort is key. I've noticed that in the past, when having both of these things, or even one of them, it's always something that the teams bring, and it's something that's really strong. And in combination with having other stuff, when this goes back to drafting, this goes back to team building, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is that I want to help anybody who is willing to ask. So if anybody wants me to do team building tutorials, if anybody wants me to do streams, which I plan on doing soon, and stream tutorials for team building and decision making during matches, I'll totally do that. But I don't want people to go each week and just feel like they keep losing or they're just not doing as good as they want to, when all that's really missing is just putting a little more effort into learning. And so, I guess that's my spiel for now. But really, I want to see everybody grow and learn. And I don't expect anyone to know a certain amount, but I do kind of have an expectation for everybody to want to get better instead of to do the same thing each week and it not work for them. So I'll get off my pedestal now. We'll go ahead and go to the last match real quick, and we'll talk about the Rykos versus Because I'm Zubatman. So there are a couple things that this match was between two really good teams, and there was some really unique stuff which we'll talk about, and there are some things that I'm kind of more of a nitpick about, but I don't know if it really affected the match in the end. Is the Zubatman brought a Focus Sash Tyrantrum, and that Tyrantrum ended up causing so much damage to the Rykos. And I almost always, I don't know if it's because it was a choice, me and Shao, but I almost always run Fake Out on it. And if he had done Fake Out, High Jump Kick, because it was a Focus Sash, it wouldn't have outsped. And it wasn't a Dragon Dance set, or at least that's not what he used. And that would have taken care of that thing. So that's something I guess I'm nitpicking about.
Yeah, the Fake Out would have been a huge difference. And it was a Dragon Dance set. I just was playing it safe at that point.
Yeah, I can understand that. I figured it might have Dragon Dance, but either way, that would have taken care of the Tyrantrum there, and that was something that really hammered down on the Rykos team. I would also say that setting up with the Koffagrigus on turn 1 was a kind of way too early. I don't think that setting up on turn 1, unless you know they don't have an answer for that particular setup, is a good idea, because usually the best time to set up is mid to late game when you know that you can at least get a kill or two out of it. You shouldn't set up with the risk of losing it for nothing, because your sweepers are what win you games most of the time. So preserving those win conditions is kind of going back to what I was saying before. And I would also like to see, and this is just a preference, but I like to see Blaziken with High Jump Kick and Flare Blitz instead of Low Kick and Fire Punch with Life Orb. And if you don't want to run Life Orb on that, that's fine. Run Leftovers with Speed Boost and those two moves. It hits hard. You could run Expert Belt, but it has enough coverage to where you could run it without Life Orb and it hits hard on anything. I mean, it has Brave Bird. You could have brought Brave Bird on it and it would have hit that Venusaur like a truck. So I don't know. That's just kind of a personal opinion. The Sunny Day Heatran was awesome. Seeing him take advantage of the chlorophyll on the base Venusaur, that was cool. So that's kind of all I've got.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the big momentum shift was just the chlorophyll Venusaur. For those of you who don't know, before Venusaur Mega evolves, he gets the ability Chlorophyll, which means that his speed doubles in the sun, and that coupled with Solar Beam is pretty formidable. The other thing that kind of, I guess he thought that I was going to switch, but without Brave Bird, there was really nothing to scare me off, so I'm not sure why he went for the low kick there on
even
Blaziken.
Fire Punch would have been a better choice.
Right, exactly. Even with the thick fat, yeah, you're still going to get stab on it. So the other thing that I'm wondering, I don't know if that Raikou was assault vested or what, but that Giga Drain did nothing, which was kind of a big surprise to me. So I don't know. Maybe you can
It
weigh
was
in on that,
probably
Brandon.
vested. I like the assault vest variant too because you can kind of fake that choice. Because usually, if you don't see leftovers or life orb on a sweeper, especially a fast electric type, you assume that it's choiced. And so assault vest on something like Raikou or Zapdos is fun to use because it tricks them into like you could play the game of like pretending like you're choiced and then reveal it later and totally change the momentum. So I like assault vest on it, and I'm pretty sure that's probably like that's what it was. So
Yeah, and it definitely got him a kill out of Venusaur because I was fully expecting to get enough health back from that Giga Drain to just move on. So that was a good play on his part. Um, I'll also say like he's got a scary team. He really does. Um, two Pokemon in there that if you let them set up, they will just kill you, and that's Mega Slowbro and Blaziken. Uh, I actually brought Unaware Clefable for Mega Slowbro just in case of the worst, but that Mega Slowbro is a scary Pokemon.
yeah, yep. Raikou's really tough too, but not. I think part of the problem is since he wasn't running Flare Blitz, like Fire Punch wasn't gonna do anything to Clefable. Like it would have maybe three shot it after like with leftovers, but Flare Blitz would have been a guaranteed two hit KO no matter what spread it was running. And
Exactly.
I think not preserving the win conditions you had in Blaziken, and I honestly think between Blaziken and Raikou, he could have had the match. And then me and Xiao obviously could have taken care of the Tyrantrum, but I think just the way it turned out was, good plays on your part, obviously, because that Sunny Day stuff was probably threw him off guard and totally changed the like positioning of the game and everything. And I think that's kind of what ultimately set the match the way it was, is because I think at that point he was just backstepping and didn't really know what to do. So props to you on that play.
Appreciate it. What was I gonna say? Oh, the sleep powder also kind of killed um, on the
Yeah,
Blaziken there. Not trying to like pat myself on the back. I'm just like pointing out spots where the match changed momentum.
I
And
totally would have like knowing if I had something like Slowbro, I totally would have run like a specially defensive rest talk set
yeah,
just for that because like I would have thought,
absolutely.
okay, well, sleep powder is possible. I mean, I don't know. I've seen you use it already, so I'm like, oh, okay, I would have done that. And you could have run Psyshock, rest, sleep talk, and something else, and it would have actually been kind of scary.
Well, Psychic even
Yeah.
would go probably better for Mega Venusaur. But yeah, I was wondering. That was one of the scary moments. Was I switched in that Venusaur on the Slowbro there, and he went for the Calm Mind setup. I really thought he'd have Psychic on that thing,
Yeah.
and if he did, he'd have hit Venusaur really hard. He might have two shotted. So um, just a thought. Mega Slowbro is a really good wall, but it also has pretty solid special attack.
Uh huh.
And like just talking about like, I mean, Chase is a really good player and he does a really good job of preparing, but just a nitpicking moment that could have changed the momentum of the match. Just bringing Psychic um, on that Venusaur makes that no longer a safe switch.
Uh
In
huh.
fact, I could have easily lost the Venusaur. It was a really risky switch in.
Not having
Um,
any dark type brought this week too, like that would have been a really good like opportunity to exploit like Slowbro being such a threat because even like the only answer he has for a psychic like from Slowbro would be Heatran, and Heatran doesn't like Scalds, so
right, right. I mean, that was definitely the scariest Pokemon for me on his team. So
yeah, and I think it goes back again to like setting up too early. Like he could have just thrown out a move to get some damage off because the base damage, even if it wasn't invested, like the base damage on Slowbro would have been plenty to like scare you off. And then he could have set up, or he could have gone for another attack, or he could have switched out to something else to sacrifice it. But yeah, I think I don't know what I'm saying. I guess I'm just trying to say that like a combination of setting up too early and the really good plays made by David with the sunny day he ran, I think kind of what ended up turning this match into what it was. So, but it was a really good match overall. It's my favorite to watch this week.
Appreciate it.
Well, let's just take a quick look at the standings for this week. So this week we've got the Krookodiles. I'm not going to read all of it, but yeah, you can see the stuff on the website. But it looks like, for the most part, in the division standings, we've got Zubatman, who's got a strong lead now against the Rykos with one win ahead, and the Rykos.
Strong.
Yeah. So it
I don't
could
know
go,
about strong.
I'm just saying differential-wise, having the lead and everything, it's 2 more weeks, and he has to bank on the fact that you have to lose a match really bad and he has to win a match really good, and then you both have like a decent week as well. So I think because there's only 2 weeks left, I think that really makes it hard for him to be able to have a chance at winning, like getting the first place seed for the Butler Free division. And Black Ice, I think, are probably out of the count at this point.
Yeah, mathematically they're eliminated.
Yeah. But
I want to say, though, Black Ice, the coach of the Black Ice, like I said, I don't know him from Adam, but whoever he is, he's a new guy. He's got some really good strategies, and I hope he sticks it out. I hope we see him back, because he is going to have some real success if he sticks it out.
Yeah, and like I only started out with when I started this league back in September last year. I feel like the biggest thing that I had going for me, and the reason like I did so well, was because I already knew about the draft format and I had been watching it for at least a year, and I had practiced a lot of Showdown already, and so my advantage was just time spent playing and watching and observing, and I think that the same goes for the people who don't have the best records this season. I definitely think the Black Ice with a better draft and, a bit more effort into planning could definitely be a huge threat next season. And I look forward to hopefully seeing him back in Season 4. Same goes for some of the other teams. So we'll go ahead and look at the Quagsire division. We've got the Charmillionaires and the Wobbuffets are really close. Really, it just depends on wins at this point, because the differential, I feel like, is so far apart that the wins have to determine who gets first and second. So that's going to be a close match to watch, or a close competition to watch. And I think the Gengars at this point, because he had really two really strong teams in his division, is probably out this season. Well, he is out, but like when we say this stuff, it's not to like say, oh, whatever. It's more just like, yeah, this is the way it is. But like everybody should take this opportunity not to just like play the last 2 matches and get them over with, but like try new things. Like especially if you don't care about losing in these last couple weeks, try new things, experiment, see what might work, what doesn't, and just start thinking about next season and really kind of plan for that. I think that could be valuable.
Yep, absolutely. The worst that happens is you lose,
Yep.
So there's no harm in trying something new.
Totally agreed. So the Waylord division has the Krookodiles in a strong lead. Alakazam Apparitions are in a healthy second place. When I say healthy, it's because third place is pretty unlikely at this point of getting in the playoffs or tournament or whatever you want to call it. In order for the Fakemon to make it into the tournament, they have to win the next 2 weeks, and the Apparitions have to lose the next 2 weeks. So if that doesn't happen, then Fakemon's out. And then in Empoleon division, we've got the Mucks in a pretty decent lead when it comes to differential, but he's only 1 win ahead of Feliday. Feliday just took the advantage over the NPCs last week and will probably keep the lead, I'm thinking. And so it'll be interesting to see if maybe the Bucks lose their lead by the end and before seeds are set. But in case anybody forgot, the way the seeds work is the top 4 seeds go to the first place of each division, and then the second place of each division get the last 4 seeds. And the way the ordering for each set of 4 goes is based on their record at that point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, see if anybody is gets a worse seed, or has to maybe lose their spot in the tournament. So I think it'll be interesting to see how things turn out.
Absolutely. Going to be fun.
And then lastly, just wanted to look at the player leaderboard real quick. Raiko and Greninja are tied at 16 knockouts and 5 times fainted. Sableye still at 14 knockouts and 4 times fainted. Blaziken's at 14. And then Venusaur got some kills, so it's in 5th place now. We've got Charizard X, who got a lot of kills this week, so he appeared on the board as well as is now in 6th place in the solid center. Golurk and Conkeldurr still hanging out in the back, and then Mega Salamence is still in the back, and then Zapdos, my boy Zapdos, is on the leaderboard for the first time this season. So pretty cool. I don't really have anything else to add. Do you?
No, I will say like the level of play has gone up over the season. So if you're one of those guys that's struggling maybe this season, please don't lose heart. Like I said, the level of play has gone up, and it will continue to do so if you continue to put in the effort.
Absolutely.
The tempting thing to do is to lose a few times and then say, oh, well, these guys are just better. But that's not the case at all. I think right now you've got the more experienced players are leading the pack, and then behind that, you've got the less experienced players. And the thing about experience is as you play, you get it. So if this group sticks together and these guys continue to prepare, I really think that we're going to end up with a really competitive and really fun league. So just tough it out, stick with it, guys. You're doing a great job, honestly. We nitpick you every week. I know that that's hard sometimes, but we do it because we want to see you get better. And I think that we have seen the level of play improve. So please understand that where we're coming from is not a place of like, we're not trying to say like, oh, this is a really dumb mistake or anything like that. What we're trying to do is just point out places where there could be improvement, because what we want to see in this is a league that is really competitive and a whole lot of fun.
I totally agree. The reason we started these videos was because we want everybody to have the opportunity to get better. We want everybody to feel like they have an equal opportunity at winning. And I feel like the more we play and the more seasons go by, I feel like it's more possible for everybody to be on an equal playing field. And what determines that, like I said before, I don't consider myself that great of a player, and it's not to like, oh, he's so humble or whatever, but like the reason I am like able to win it all is because I practice and I know like what to do, and I've watched videos and I've taken the time to learn it, and it's obviously my decision to spend that time the way I do. But I would just encourage everybody to, like, if you even put a little bit of effort into learning and changing and like taking what we have like suggested and trying it, even if it fails, like you're still learning and growing. And so like what David said, like watch these videos, try new things even if it doesn't work, so that you can figure out what more of a play style that you like, what things you need to consider when you draft, when you team build, and how you play matches. And I would be happy to do streams or videos that help break those things down. So if anybody wants that, they can just approach me individually or leave a comment in the section below. But I think that's all we've got for this week. Like I said, we've got 2 more weeks so we could see even more improvement. I'm really excited to see, like, each week's gotten so much better, and it's been fun to watch all these matches. And even though there are like little things that happen that we like are like, oh, it's happening again, like it's good to see the level of play increase, like David's saying. So that's all I've got.
You guys are awesome.
Yep, and so we hope to see, like it's not the end of the season by any means. We have 2 more weeks, and we also have the tournament. But as things start to wind down, and some of you guys think about season 4 if you're returning, we want this to grow. We want to see more people be involved. We want to see this opportunity, for people to come together and enjoy this game, but also learn more about it. We want to see all that come to fruition. So if you guys have friends that you think might be interested, even if they're not into like competitive or ever tried that before, you should connect them with me, tell them about this stuff, and just, see where it goes. But either way, this is KleverKrok, and thank you, David, for joining me today, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.